Welcome to the Barry Podcast, an unofficial show covering the hit HBO series Barry. I'm one of your hosts, Jamie G. Esquire, the fifth master of showmanship, and I'm here with my co-host Magnum Mills to talk about the ninth episode of Barry, the season 2 premiere, titled "The Show Must Go On." Probably.
I think it probably will. I am Magnum Mills. Thank you for checking out the Body Podcast. I just love Hank says Barry better than anyone. Body. This I don't know for the Barry Podcast, the Body Podcast, but either way, you can find us wherever you get your pods. You can find us on social media at Barry Podcast. Find us on YouTube. Go ahead and search for Barry Podcast. Or if you're listening, you just want to find our YouTube channel, you can go to joeblowfootballshow.com. If you could, please take roughly 10 seconds to like, rate, comment, follow, subscribe. You know the deal. Please just do one of those things. If you want to do them all, I won't complain. But by doing one of those things, you help other people find the show. It's all we ask. We greatly appreciate it. Please and thank you.
When we cover episodes of Barry, we spoil everything from all previous episodes. However, during these rewatch episodes, we will not be spoiling any future events or episodes of Barry. I can't even do it. Barry.
Body. It's like bar E, like bar, and then the letter E, I think.
Body. At the end of our episode discussion, though, we will have a spoiler section where the spoilers can and definitely will fly. But don't you worry, we'll give you a heads up when we get to that point, so you'll have plenty of time to check on out if you so desire. Mills, hit us with these episode deets.
Yeah, like you're in spoiler country now. It's like the new Bat country. This is season 2, episode 1. The Show Must Go On, probably. Originally aired Sunday, March 31st, 2019, with an estimated 532 viewers in the United States tuning in live. Directed by Hiro Murai. This is the third episode of Barry that he has directed. Written by Alec Berg and Bill Hader. This is their fourth written by credit on Barry. Teofik Kalade is credited as executive story editor. The short plot synopsis is: Barry tries to convince Sally and the rest of the class to go ahead with a performance, despite the absence of Gene. NoHo Hank and Cristobal's new partnership faces growing pains. Fuchs learns that replacement hitmen don't come easy, especially if they're cheap.
No, they do not. And before we get into our incredible recap discussion of this episode, we're going to each give you our overall thoughts here. Remember, no future spoilers. Mills, for me, it was like almost like I was watching this one for the first time. I picked up a lot of stuff that I didn't really remember. And right off the bat, set the tone here. You know, you get, I mean, come on, man, you get NoHo Hank in a wig. This is hilarious in and of itself, working. You know, you get more Cristobal. I thought this was good, and they really set the stage kind of in one episode to lay out what could be an entire season. We don't know if that's going to shake that way or not, but there's a lot of kind of plot points here and characters that was like, okay, this is what we got. I was pretty excited about this.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Again, I don't think there's ever been a bad episode of Barry. I do think that this one had a lot of hard work to do, both in following the kind of final couple of episodes of season 1, especially the way the season 1 finale ended. And then here you have to kind of set up, all right, what happened in the time we missed? Where are things with Janice? Where's Hank now? Where's Barry now? Where's Sally now? Where's the acting class? What's Cristobal? We got the Burmese mafia. I just think there was a lot of plot mechanics going on here. And the show also tried to kind of luxuriate in some of like the despair, I think, especially with Gene in the rest of the acting class, and that's fine and everything, but this is one of the longer episodes of Barry, so it did feel like they were struggling maybe a little bit to both move on from season 1 and set up all the new stuff for season 2, so you could kind of like, you know, hear it creaking a little bit, or so you can see the seams in the writing a little bit. Again, not a bad episode of Barry. There are no bad episodes of Barry, but just, you know, it took a minute to kind of find its groove, but it definitely had some high points, 100%.
Yeah, well, in the way it left off, it was kind of like, wow, how do you pick back up, right? So I mean, I think it took them a little.
Yeah, it was always going to be rough to kind of just because, you know, again, there were so many ways they could have gone, and they probably tried a bunch of different ones in the writers' room, is my guess.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. We're gonna try here to get going. So, all right, baby Tony Robbins, you know the deal, man. The show must go on.
I just wonder, is like baby Tony Robbins similar to Sweet Baby Jesus? To like they hang out, go to the same daycare or something like that? I don't know. I would be interested in that kind of like Muppet Babies type spinoff, though. That would be a good one. We open season 2 with a mass criminal trying to steal the contents of a safe. He kills 2 guys, but he's got the wrong code for the safe. The guy takes off his mask and we see that it's not Barry. We don't know who this guy is. He tries to shoot the lock on the safe, but the bullet ricochets and hits him in the leg. We cut to Fuchs in a hotel room with a nervous client. We hear sirens and there's a knock on the door. It's Fuchs's guy, the guy we saw, and he's immediately shot dead by the police when Fuchs opens the door. This is too much for the client, who jumps out the window, lands on a car, and is riddled with bullets by the police. With no options left, Fuchs must act like the victim, and he tells the cops,
"Oh, thank God you're here."
How is this for your opening of season 2? Did you like the way they kind of did the fake out with the fake Barry? I mean, he was dressed just like Barry.
He was, and for a minute,
Wondered, like, does Fuchs supply their clothes? It made me wonder because it was so similar. There's like, did Fuchs get a deal at Costco or something? He got this bulk of these like kind of olive shirts or whatever, because it was very close to what Barry wore.
Very close, and it kind of, for a minute there, it makes you think. I guess I'm okay with it. I mean, I don't know. I understand kind of why, but I think the best part of this was Fuchs just trying to act like he's a victim by far. I mean, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And Fuchs is always, he's the chameleon and Predator there. He can be whatever he needs to be. But you do see one carryover from the season 1 pilot, and that's Fuchs being cheap. Like, it really comes up here, like, this is his new guy, and you get the idea that he's kind of like dime store Barry, and then the whole thing with the client, that the client just wanted to get this package, and Fuchs somehow never communicated that they were going to kill everyone there to get the package. I mean, let's be honest, wouldn't that cost more? Like, isn't there a difference from just a straight theft to like having to whack everyone who's there? I think that would be extra. So that kind of surprised me with Fuchs. I think he's just getting a little bit sloppy, and I guess what I'm saying is Barry like covered up, like maybe Fuchs isn't that great, and Barry just like covered up for that shit by all his meticulous planning and skills and whatnot.
Yeah, I think it was the combination of them, and I think that was kind of the point here too, right? Like, it's not going to work. You don't just replace Barry, no matter how smart or managerial prowess Fuchs has. It's just you just don't replace him. And think about all the crazy shit Barry did in season 1. Anybody else would have been caught or dead. Barry makes it. I just, to your point, I don't know how much of it's Fuchs. I think a lot of it's Barry.
Yeah, and we even see that at the end of the episode when he, takes out the sheep fuckers from 700 yards or whatever, that this is
Right.
kind of like this is what really he's good at. Like when, we was talking to Fuchs about finding his thing outside of this. The reason he's doing this is because he's good at this. This is probably the thing he is definitely the best at. And you know what else was the best? When Fuchs's client is just set and he just jumps out the window, like just head first out the hotel window, crashes on the car, and all the cops just turn around and just spray him. I was dying. Like, I mean, this was a very funny setup, I think, all the way around. And I even like the whole how it opened real slow with the guy talking about like watching TV or whatever. And I think he's, I want to see what happens or whatever. Like, I think that was definitely some meta stuff from the writers. But really, I think the opening scene worked for me, and I didn't even mind that it was a little bit of a misdirect with it not being Barry.
And I think one thing that I love about this show is through the first season, and then right off the bat here in episode 1 of season 2, they're not afraid to have these huge kind of like massive action shootouts. Like, we've seen it a couple times, and and just involving the police and people being, where you would think normally there would be like a huge massive aftermath, and they just kind of find a way to just we'll see what happens here, but they just kind of find a way to keep it going. But they're not afraid of blending that action with some dark humor, and I'm a big fan of that.
No, definitely they can blend the action and the dark humor, and they misdirect you because really it's all done without actually seeing a lot of it, because you hear the sirens approaching and everything like that. And then when you actually see the cops, it's just like the 2 detectives at the door, and then there's the one shot where the dude falls on the car and turns around. I don't even think they cut to multiple angles. So it's not even as much as you've seen, but the way they present it makes it feel like bigger than it is. And I think that's just, just a sign of a great show that they can, make you just really feel bigger than the actual nature of it.
Yeah.
That's what you do, right? Like, that's acting. And we're at the acting class after the title card, and they're trying to rehearse the front page. It's the dress rehearsal for the big play that Barry's supposed to be doing with Sally starring in and everything. But Barry's the only one who seems into it, and he's really into it. Like, he's into costume. I liked his newsman costume, thought it was pretty sharp. Apparently, Gene left yesterday's rehearsal in tears over the disappearance of Janice. They can't do the show without a director, so Barry offers to direct, despite having no experience. The rest of the class reluctantly heads off to get into their costumes, and Sally confronts Barry. She doesn't think that Gene can do this, and they all need time to process Janice's murder. Barry weakly claims that they don't know what happened to Janice, and Sally replies that Barry is the only one who doesn't think that she was murdered. Barry wonders aloud, if we cancel the show, then what was the point? This throws Sally off, and Barry quickly reassures her that it's going to be great, and he heads off to prepare for the rehearsal. You like the reintroduction to the acting class here?
I do. And I think there's some really good ones here, from a dialogue standpoint. And again, we're right back kind of showing just some of the self-centeredness of some of the folks in here. And it works. I haven't grown sick of it either. Yet. I also think the show they've done this throughout season one, and they're doing a good job of it here of just kind of showing you and telling you, telling you rather than showing you kind of what's gone down since season one. And I think they pick and choose that battle when to just full on kind of tell you versus show you. And I think it worked okay here.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. Just a couple of minor things. I like the idea that Sally shaved her head for a role without really considering like what the cost of that would be. Like, yeah, it's about 9 months do you probably have normal hair, maybe more for a female. Like even for a dude, it's a good, you shave your head. It's what, 4 months probably before you're like you need to really do anything again. I don't know. I'm unfamiliar with the rate of hair growth, and I just love Sasha that her nickname for Barry is Boz. Maybe it just goes up with the way that NoHo Hanks is body, but I just love Sasha saying Boz. It's kind of like the way British people say mom instead of ma'am, like mom. I always thought they were saying mom for years. No, that's a ma'am.
I just, he doesn't have many lines, but boy, he's got some zingers. And that's Jermaine, dude. When they're going on about how distraught Gene was, and Jermaine says, I still think it was part of my emotional performance. Absolutely hilarious. And then, of course, Eric and Antonio's reaction to that is great. And then at the end, Jermaine's like, nah, it was me. It's just, again, the stab, I think the writers just kind of poking fun of, up and coming actors and just the ego that it takes to be one, I guess.
And it actually goes
narcissism might be
it goes just a touch further because when Barry says like, I'll direct, and Jermaine asks like, or someone asks like, have you ever directed before? And Barry's like, no. And you hear Jermaine kind of say like, I only noticed because of the subtitles. Like, oh, that's weird. So again, watch it with the subtitles on. I guess you can pick stuff up. And especially in the next scene, you want to have the subtitles on because we're at the stash house and Hank is narrating a letter that he's sending to Batir back home in Chechnya. He's telling him that the partnership between the Chechens and Bolivians is going great, and Hank has found a true friend and partner in Cristobal. Hank is introduced to Esther, head of the Burmese crime family. She has a proposition. In exchange for sharing the stash house with them, she'll help smuggle heroin into the country for them, as well as providing access to her smugglers and assassins. To prove her resolve, Esther stabs herself in the hand with a knife and even gives it a little twist. Cristobal is very impressed, while they all find it oddly hysterical. And the recap probably short sells the letter that Hank writes here, and it's mostly done as a one shot that follows him through the stash house. I thought this was great, and my guess is at one point someone probably pitched this as the opening scene to the season because I think it could have worked for that too.
If I ever need a pen pal for whatever reason, please let it be Hank. Like the guy can put together a great letter, man. I just want him to send me a text. I think that we should just create a service, get a text a day from Hank, and you charge $20 a day, and you get just a Hank text once a day. It would be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, really, if somebody had to tell me I had deadly butt cancer or something, I think Hank would be the best one to tell me.
Yes,
you got to hear it from the right place here. And speaking of kind of the right place, Hank and Cristobal, he uses the word partners and stuff, and then when Cristobal asks Hank what is it that we've wanted to get into, and without even thinking, Cristobal says,
what is the one thing that we here have wanted to dip our toes in?
Chocolate.
Heroin.
Heroin.
Hank, heroin.
Heroin.
It is the one box left unchecked in our organization.
He doesn't even hesitate. You get the feeling they've had this conversation about dipping their toes in things before. So I'm just saying, with the context given here, it feels like, they are both partners and partners maybe.
Yeah, I think there's a little bromance going here, and I'm okay. I'm there for it, man.
Especially in the scene, you notice and if you're actually watching on YouTube, you can look just above my shoulder now. It's still from the scene behind me, and they have this painting of them above the table here with them both like doing the thumbs up, and you just get like, I guess at the absolute low end of it is like they're like the brothers and stepbrothers or whatever. Like they're very close. And dude, I don't know about Hank's serve, but that volleyball scene was just, dude, he's got knee pads on. Like he's all serious. He's got the full gear knee pads on. And there's some dudes who are wearing like leather jackets and everything. Like it was just yeah, everything in this scene, the whole bit of it worked, right? Like Hank's got the fox mug, Cristobal has an owl mug. Like you can just tell like they've been cohabitating or whatever. When they talk about like Hank says like, oh, the Burmese are one ahead of them in the crime family rankings. I would kill to know what the crime family rankings are on Barry. Like just to know like the top 10 gangs in LA or whatever. I would kill for like the police to just do that on like a PowerPoint or something. I would love to see that.
Yes, we would be there for that. And it's just this interesting mix, right? I mean, and this is again something the show has done great. You take two drastically different people from drastically different worlds, and they just work so well together with Cristobal and Hank. So, who would have thought a Chechkin and a Bolivian could have this type of relationship? But I'm glad for it.
Yeah, and see, that's the one thing that never really tracked for me. So I actually did the fucking math. Like Chechnya is in Russia, Bolivia is in South America. Like they're supposed to be natural enemies and shit. They're 13,000 plus kilometers apart, at least from the capital cities of the countries. And even the Burmese are still 3,000 miles from Chechnya, like kilometers, what have you. Like it's still far. And everything in this scene, there's so many good small touches. Like I mentioned the painting, when Cristobal's giving like his little, is it a presentation, I guess, or whatever. You see there's like a slide behind him, a PowerPoint, and it says a curvy line still gets you high, and it shows like lines of Coke or whatever. And shout out when Hank calls Cristobal a guru mensch. I Googled it. I thought it was a reference. There's nothing on Google. Like the writers / Hank made that one up. So shout out Cristobal looking a little bit like Tony Robbins with that mustache. Just a little bit. I might be old by referencing Tony Robbins. He hasn't been around since like Shallow Hell. It's like the last time I remember him being in anything.
He's still touring, and he's still giving his powerful presentations.
Still got probably mustache and a giant head. In the next scene, Barry heads over to Gene's house to discuss the play and finds Gene there with the LAPD. Our boy Loach and Detective May Dunn are there to tell Gene that his cabin is no longer an active crime scene. Gene thinks Janice could still be out there somewhere, but the cops are convinced that the Chechens killed her. The cops leave, and Barry asks Gene when he might be ready to wreck the play. Gene tells Barry that he's been considering suicide, and pretty quickly asks Barry to leave his house. Have you not heard of Harry Carey? I mean,
it's this interesting character development for him, right? I mean, Gene is absolutely distraught, but he also kind of feels like maybe he's in the clear here, right? I mean, it's kind of a crazy situation for Barry.
Loach legitimately says, we know all that we'll ever know, basically, like making it, about as crystal clear as you could that, Barry should feel free and clear, which probably, impacts the way he acts the rest of the episode a little bit, because now he doesn't have to really, even if he had worried about that a little, now he doesn't have to. So now it just becomes a matter of managing Gene. And shout out May Dunn, because I think she was really a fan of Gene, or she's at least some sort of star fucker. Like I love when she's just looking, if you pay attention to the scene the whole time, she's just looking at his posters and everything. And Gene's got some great posters around his house. And no, that wasn't Corbin Burnson. That's Ronnie Cox. Shout out Total Recall and Beverly Hills Cop.
Fantastic. I didn't remember Gene, from the first time we watched this to rewatching this time. I didn't remember him being this crazy distraught. Like I guess it just highlights how madly in love he was with Janice.
Yeah, he really was like on a Beyonce, like crazy in love kind of thing. And they do kind of point out here, it's one of those things that you just have to notice from a technical standpoint, that there's thousands of acres around his cabin. So they really didn't do a lot of searching, because that's one thing we haven't been told is how Barry got rid of the body, or maybe his gun. You have to assume they come search the cabin or whatever. So I think that gives them kind of a narrative out there.
Mills, real quick. Any chance here that you think maybe Barry didn't kill her? are you full in here thinking that he did?
No, I think he killed her. I mean, this is we heard gunshots go off at the end, even though you don't see it. The way he acted and everything, the way he said "starting now" at the end of the scene, that implies that that's yeah. And I don't think that's a spoiler. I think that's the assumption. I think even in the plot synopsis released by HBO, I think it indicated that she died or whatever. So. And we're not going to go back to the cabin. We are going to go back to the stash house where Hank is handing out the mail. He even knows the one dude who likes Domino's, maybe the only dude in the world. And there's a package from Chechnya, which is not his Blu-ray copy of Riverdance. It contains a bullet. This leads Hank to call Batir back home, and Batir tells him that he's going to die for siding with the Bolivians over his family. After all, the Bolivians killed Goran, right? Hank replies that the Bolivians did not kill Goran, and the camera cuts away right before he tells Batir who the real killer is. And I don't think it was OJ.
No, I don't think so. But dude, shout out to bringing back the bullet here, dude. I like the.
So maybe it really
bullet.
wasn't just Hank this whole time. Maybe it was a real like Chechen.
It might be a Chechen thing, dude.
Or are they just doing it back to him to fuck with him because they knew that was like his thing, and so that would be like the best way to troll him. The shout out Batir either way, like it seems like he thought about this, and also no DHL. Like last time, the bullet was very clearly tied to DHL, so I'm assuming they didn't want to put up the sponsorship and whatnot. And Hank could use that because when he gets the thing in the mail, like the win $1 million, want to win $1 million, he's not going to fall for that again. He's not going to fall for the banana on the tailpipe.
No, he's not. One thing about this before we move on, I did like the fact that we get Batir here, and I thought like, okay, I was sad at the end of season 1 when we lost Goran. I was like, man, that Hank Goran combo, and I know it looks like we're going to get some Hank Cristobal combo, and that's great, but I still want Hank with other Chechkins. So I've got high hopes here for Batir.
Certainly higher hopes than Domino's. And shout out if you actually like Domino's. I didn't mind Domino's in college, and then they decided to add like 8 tons of garlic to everything. If you have to add more garlic, you're probably doing it wrong, even though I enjoy garlic. I don't know how I feel about Lululemon, but that's where we go next because that's where Barry works with Sasha. And Sasha is not pleased that he's doing a British accent at work in an effort to bring his characters out into the world. And they have a very entertaining argument, which is interrupted by none other than NoHo Hank himself in a wig. In NoHo Hank, those shorts are for ladies. Hank reminds Barry that he saved Barry's life and Barry killed Goran and his friends. Hank told Batir that Esther killed Goran, so now Hank needs Barry to kill Esther. This will help keep both of them safe with the Chechens, and it will help Hank's relationship with Cristobal. Barry isn't having any of it. He tells Hank that he's an idiot and he needs to leave. In Jamie and G, this might be the most important question we've ever discussed on the show. What do you think of NoHo Hank in a wig?
Dude, it was weird. I'm not gonna lie.
We might have to talk about that noise if we're going to talk about weird. You sounded like a helium balloon farted.
It was crazy with that dude. I couldn't even understand.
That's the Fred from Scooby-Doo cosplay wig, right? Like Fred from Scooby-Doo. That's the first thing. All you need to do is wear the neckerchief with that. Dude, now I want to see NoHo Hank dressed as Fred from Scooby-Doo. I don't know. I want to see.
Do you think it says
Barry
something
could be Shaggy, dude. He's tall. He's got like a little scruffle. Barry could be Shaggy, dude. I'm into this.
They could do a whole thing.
I want to see the Barry Cast cosplay Scooby-Doo now. I want to see the Barry Cast cosplay Scooby-Doo 100%.
I was not surprised that he decided to go with blonde
with Gene
at all.
Like
I was not surprised at all. I was like, okay, does he go? Why blonde? But then it's like, yeah, NoHo Hank goes blonde. No doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean the women's pants line was just.
You kept these pants in size medium?
Those are women's pants.
Shit.
Shout out the customer.
Excuse me.
Who's like,
does this come in purple?
No, but we do have it in a Heathered Star Ruby.
What is that?
Well, it's basically, if you were to take red and blue and then just mix those two elements together.
So purple.
I Googled it. Heathered Star Ruby is legitimately what they fucking call purple. Whether or not it's purple, and shout out to Kirby, used to be billed as Kirby Hall Batiste. She most deaf at this point, played an Australian in The Good Place. If you don't watch The Good Place, you should watch The Good Place. And I too thought that Lululemon was a candy store for a long time.
What'd you think of Hank's pitch here, dude? Did you like his pitch, or was it a little
I mean, it was fair considering the what he gave Barry, and then Barry again, Hank was kind of on the outs with Goran, so I don't think he'd mind that as much, but he calls the other guys his friends, and you get the idea, like, this is Hank, he's pretty friendly. Like, he probably, like, knew all those guys, and they probably all were really his friends, so he did make a big sacrifice. So I think Barry definitely brushes him off a little bit too hard here. Like, this is where Barry could use Fuchs, because Fuchs would have recognized, like, oh, no, you need to manage Hank a little bit here. You can't just tell him to fuck off. Like, he wouldn't have come to you like this if he didn't need to. And he actually even showed you the respect of trying to come in a disguise and be discreet and everything when he didn't really have to. Like, he didn't use the phone. Hank did theoretically everything he could to, like, I guess maybe he could have waited for Barry to leave work or something. But other than that, then we wouldn't have got this scene. So I appreciate the choice that they made. And shout out Barry's British accent. I thought it was pretty good, especially when he dropped it and the thing wasn't working. I loved all that.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I was pretty.
Yeah, the whole
impressed with
exchange from him and Sasha, because it's hard to talk about that without just showing it, because that's just straight comedy, the back and forth banter. But that was a very phenomenal scene. Enjoyed that a lot.
Firstly, British is not a character. Yeah, it's not. And secondly, when the guests hear you talking like that, and then they hear me talking like this, they think that we're both doing accents, and then we both look like arseholes.
No,
we
we're
look
the
silly.
same. No, we're the
not
same.
What are you doing?
What are doing? See, no,
Stop
stop
it.
it. No, we
Baz?
sound the same.
No, we
don't
don't sound the
No, we
same.
sound totally the
Can
same.
you stop?
Stop. No, we
It's not
sound the
the same.
same. So
Oh, it's
what's
driving me
wrong? And
nuts.
And in the next scene, we're back with Fuchs, who's being interrogated at a police station in Cleveland. Fuchs claims that he was held against his will, while the detective says that the evidence and witnesses say otherwise. Fuchs refuses to voluntarily give a DNA sample, but that really doesn't matter because the cops get one from Fuchs's discarded Coca-Cola can. Dude, I love that. Like, you see the tech with the bag, and it clearly says, like, rapid DNA test on it, so it's not like Fuchs has to be a fucking genius to see what it is. And then he refuses, and you just watch the tech pick up his empty can and put it right into the evidence bag. So, I mean, maybe if we've been giving Fuchs a little bit too much credit this whole time, I mean, like, again, maybe it really was just mostly Barry. Like, he just had Barry, and that was his whole, because I thought Fuchs seemed kind of clever, like the thing with the phones and everything like that. He's not an idiot, but here that seems like, did they dial it down to make him seem a little too dumb there?
Well, and I wonder too if maybe he's reeling and letting himself go without having Barry. I think he's, maybe he's more hurt by this than what he's leading on.
That's a good point. I like that. I think that really makes sense there. I think that about does it for that scene. After that, we go back to the theater, and it's opening night, but Gene hasn't shown up yet. Sally tries to talk to Barry about how he's been acting and the wall that's been put up between them, but Barry does not have time for that right now. He attempts to get the acting class fired up Gene style, but he is no Gene Cousineau. Lucky for him, Gene shows up, but unlucky for him, Gene tells the audience that the show is canceled. He has not seen any of the rehearsals. He cannot, in good conscience, let this show go on with his name, but they can get some, comp for some merch at the box office or whatever. No refunds, though. And everybody except Barry is very relieved that they're not going to do the show. Were you surprised that Gene showed up and canceled it?
I was kind of waiting for something. Not really. I think Gene, for whatever it's worth, while his name may not be what it once was, I think he still values it.
Yeah, I mean, you state the name's the same. Gene Cousineau, he done came here and changed the game. Dude, shout out Jermaine again. Gets another kind of burn in here when like they're doing the, Gene, like Barry's trying to get him to bring it in for like the 1, 2, 3 Cousineau type of deal. And Barry's like,
Jermaine, said you wanted to say something?
I did?
Yeah.
Oh, I must have been fucking with you.
Great. Okay, so this hasn't been easy. We'll be the first.
shout out Jermaine. Definitely a great episode. And I just love the pure writing in the editing here when Barry says, it doesn't matter if Gene's coming or not. A, that's what she said. And then B, after that, Natalie says, Gene's here. And Barry's immediately, oh, thank God. So yeah, Barry, like you were definitely talking out your ass, but I like that seemed, kind of a more real and aware moment for Barry when like he's finally just like, oh yes, Gene, come save me, Gene. Please, Gene, save me.
Right. I couldn't do it without him. Thank God he's here. Yeah. Again, the timing though, right? The timing of when Barry says it, it's just perfect.
Yeah, perfect edit right there. After the audience leaves, Gene tells the students that he's going to be shutting down the acting class permanently. Barry tells him that he should discuss his feelings about Janice and use them as he taught the class. Gene asks Barry to tell the class about the first man that he killed, because that is what it would be like for him to talk about Janice. Surprisingly, Barry tells the class a story, and Gene has the student act it out as he tells it. We cut between the class acting it out and a flashback to the actual scene. Nick is playing the part of Barry, and he plays it like he was overcome with grief after shooting 3 people. Gene asks if that's how it went down, and we see that it was more of a happy moment where Barry took the guys out and he basked in the admiration of his fellow soldiers. Barry tells Gene that it went down the way Nick played it, and Gene tells the students he'll see them in class tomorrow. Were you surprised that Barry took this moment? Like, was this, he had no other choice? Was this it? Like, now or never? And
I think so. I think Barry still remains so desperate, just like in season 1, to be a part of this class and a part of this kind of world outside of his normal world, that he's willing to do anything to have it continue, including opening up himself and sharing that story. And I thought that this scene, there was a lot of just pure funny scenes in this episode, but I thought this scene was way up there in terms of what it did for character development and moving along the plot line. Were you worried here at all that maybe Gene was done? We were going to lose Gene?
not really, but I was kind of, I think they chose an interesting way to do this. And I really liked how they cross-cut it between what was going on stage, what Barry was like, just kind of his expressions, just going to hate her, and then showing the actual flashback. And it surprised me that that's the way the flashback worked out, especially because it was so casual, where like really like call it in, and like the dude's like, ah, fuck it, dude. Well, you're not gonna hit him anyways. Like that kind of casual, like, yeah, take your shot, whatever. What's the worst case scenario? You kill him. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And I mean, was this it? Was this the moment that Barry realized like this was his thing? Because you see, like he takes out the ass, and then he takes out the first guy, and then the next 2 guys, he doesn't even hesitate. Just what? I mean, was this like the light bulb moment for him, so to speak? Is like, boy, like I'm good at this, and people like me when I do this.
I think so. He fit in with the community, right? In a lot of the ways he's desperate to fit in with his community now, I think a lot of the ways he was desperate to fit in with his community in the military, you know?
Yeah, I think it's probably the first time in his life he was ever really kind of accepted as a peer or whatever. And a lot of good stuff there. And as accurate as Barry is, Gene is not, because we see him throw his keys to Natalie. He throws them. He's probably still looking for those keys, man. Just a nice random touch. It reminds me of some of the physical comedy that Henry Winkler would do on Arrested Development. Always loved that. After that scene, the students leave. They're going to head to residuals for a nightcap. Sally talks to Barry about what he said. She thinks that he took what she told him to heart, and he brought that wall down. Barry wants to get out of there with her, but Sally promised her agent they'd meet for drinks. She'll be there for him tomorrow. At some point, they'll find a window.
Just classic Sally here, dude, right? I mean, this is the Sally we've come to, she kind of settled into halfway through season 1 and ended the season with. She's just all about Sally. You know, you got to love this. Here she is giving Barry a compliment. He's reaching out for her. Yeah, I'll get it at some point. It's just, you know, it's just Sally.
Yeah, I mean, really, like she basically is like, she can't miss yoga to help Barry, but then she will always give Barry shit about not giving her what she needs or whatever. And here Barry is really clearly like, yo, I could use like some companionship or whatever right now. Like, and she's like, yeah, I'm gonna go for drinks with my agent, then I need yoga and I gotta prep for this edition, but you know, we'll find a window.
We'll find a window. That is something to tell somebody who's really reaching out for help. Yeah, we'll find a window.
I think the only person who could tell that to their partner and get away with it is Will John, because you know, just be like, the window to the wall, and you'll understand tomorrow that you'll find a way between the window and the wall. And there's no walls or windows outside, but Sally is leaving Barry, so Barry starts to walk to his car, and he finds NoHo Hank waiting for him. No disguises this time, no wig. Hank explains that he's not a fucking idiot, and he's not asking Barry to do the hit on Esther. He's telling him to do it. If he does not, Hank will tell Goran's family who really killed him, and they'll seek revenge on Barry and his friends in the acting class. Barry seems to agree to do the job, and Hank leaves. Different side of Hank, right? We've never seen this side before.
Never seen a dark side.
Almost kind of scared. Like, I believe NoHo Hank in that moment. Like, I don't know that, you know, if Barry had pulled out a gun, I think NoHo Hank's probably dead. I don't think he was doing some John Wick shit or something. But in that moment, like, NoHo Hank struck me as dangerous for maybe the first time ever.
He definitely did, and it was a dark side of Hank that we haven't seen yet. And quite frankly, I think it's really cool that they're considering developing his character further into this darker side. That has me excited moving forward about Hank. Can you see more of this?
Yeah, I mean, don't fuck with him. It's not polite.
It's not polite. And he's the boss now, dude. You can't disrespect him.
Yeah, I do not think he's fucking idiot, but I do like when he says when he's like told you to get out of the Dodge. Like I know they do that deliberately with the misplacing of the articles or whatever, but just I know it shouldn't be that funny, but it's because he's being so kind of heartfelt about the whole thing and just kind of those couple of missteps. I don't know why it shouldn't be as funny as it is, but in a scene that's dark, that's the beauty of Barry. Like it was a crazy scene, and NoHo Hank still got a couple of chuckles out of me, despite it being like Dark Hank.
Yeah. Yep.
Dark Hank waiting for it to be pitched on the Shark Tank. And some might call the LAPD the Shark Tank. And sharks do have a lot of teeth. And Mae Dunn gets a report on a tooth that was found in Goran's garage. And it's not a shark tooth. It turns out that the tooth belongs to Monroe Fuchs, who's being held in Cleveland. She goes over to Loach's office to tell him this. And Loach kind of realizes, like, oh, wait, that rings a bell. Loach checks out Barry's Facebook page and notes that he's also from Cleveland. He compares Barry's photo to the picture from the lipstick camera, and you could almost see the light bulb over his head. Dude, thoughts on Loach's office?
It's about what I thought it would be.
Dude, Loach is weird. It's like they give him like 2 nut punches. You get the office thing where like you look around and he doesn't even have like the high dividers for cubicles. It's like the 3-footers. So you don't even have head privacy like you would with like a 5-foot joint when you're sitting down at your desk. No, like everybody can see you at all times. And then the idea that his ex-wife Diana forced him to open up a quinceanera store in an area that's not Hispanic when she is also not Hispanic apparently. So boy, Loach, woo, but and you are smart. You do, you're doing good detective stuff, but it's like, 2 ball punches to 1 pat on the head or something.
Yeah, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and or 2 step back, 1 forward, I guess. I do like Loach's detective work here, though. Were you surprised at all that this fast they're kind of already pinning this back? It was like Barry, we got to breathe for a minute earlier in the episode where it's like he's safe, and then in this very same episode, it's like, oh man, you can see the kind of wheels turning where maybe he's not out of the woods yet. Pun intended.
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought it would be Loach, right? Of all people, like. He is kind of motivated. You get the idea that he does really like respected Janice as a partner and a peer and everything like that, despite the fact that she was, running a pool on when his wife would divorce him.
Oh, Loach, never change. Never change.
Just don't open any more quinceanera stores.
No. I mean, there are a lot of people turning 15, but no. And that is the end of our recap. Before we hand out our awards, let's see what the other people thought about this episode. Over on IMDb, this episode titled The Show Must Go On, probably, has a rating of 8.2. That's actually 18th out of 24 total episodes of Barry. That makes it kind of fall in the bottom third of episodes here. I mean, Mills, what do you think, man? Is this in the bottom third of Barry episodes? Remember, no spoilers yet.
Yeah, no future spoilers. That's probably about right. Again, there have been no bad episodes of Barry. In my opinion, you're talking about a rating over 8, which is generally like, in that solid B minus range. I think that's probably about right. Again, this is, I think, one of the longer episodes of Barry. I think checked in around 33 minutes, and I think it maybe could have been tightened up a little bit. Again, it was always going to be tough to follow the season 1 finale. I got to give the shout out again. A lot of NoHo Hank stuff I loved here. It seems like now with the option of, going into the season, knowing you had NoHo Hank there the whole time, that you could really utilize him. So I do like it in that aspect, but, probably a little long and maybe a little bit just kind of heavy of a lift. One of those kind of necessary evil episodes. I think something had to follow that season 1 finale. And this was the, do the short straw. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that. I mean, it's hard when we don't have a huge sample size, so it's kind of like, okay, bottom third, but I guess I agree with that. I mean, it was just a lot to unpack to start this episode. I think they did a good job, but with that came 3 to 5 extra minutes and maybe a tad bit slow than usual. But I did think there was some great humor in there. They kind of popped back up with some of their key players that we love, and we got a bunch of them. And then you got some surprises, dude. I mean, come on, tell me this wasn't Jermaine's best episode.
It probably was Jermaine's best episode. I will definitely co-sign that.
Well, the show must go on. Probably a bottom third episode. Mills, on to you.
I guess it is. And we know that, bottom third, top third, whatever, everybody on the show works hard. That's why there's no bad episodes of Barry. But Bill Hader himself has admitted that they don't really spend a lot of time on the episode titles. And I have to say, the show must go on. Probably it's all right, but it's a little bit of a mouthful. You have to have a comment and a question mark. Jamie G, can you do better?
Gene's Not Coming would be great. I would love that.
No, that's you can kind of see that, and that might kind of be a little bit of a misleading title. You could see HBO liking that. I mean, there's a lot of fun ones. I like to say, ruling the world while being totally chill. That's probably a little long. If you kind of wanted to be serious, my runners up would be One Last Kiss, Tuck Your Crazy in a little bit. Another fun one is you always put out the newspaper, because then you could just put the still out with Hader in the newspaper thing or something. But if I had to pick one that was kind of like final answer type of deal, I'd say, what was the point?
I also would say that, yeah, We'll Find a Window feels like a Barry title, doesn't it?
Yeah, or the title of a Lil Jon album. Either way works for me.
Yeah!
Now, well, you guessed it. We're going to hand out some awards for this episode. We'll start by each choosing our favorite quote or dialogue exchange from the episode. Mills, I'm up first here. I got to go with Hank's ultimate zinger during the dark scene where he looks at Barry and he says,
Don't fuck with me, buddy. It's not polite.
absolute classic. That scene was fantastic. Some of the other scenes were better, so I'm gonna have those in my favorite moment. But for my favorite line, dude, that was great.
Yeah, I got to go with Hank as well. And I might have, already talked about the dipping our toes in chocolate line. So you know what? Give me the one on the end of that scene.
We were just discussing Thomas Friedman. Did you read that one yet?
Okay, you've given me, like, a lot of books. I have not found the time.
I just love that. Did you get the idea that Hank is trying to read these books and keep up with it or whatever? But Cristobal's probably giving him, one new book a day? And Hank strikes me as a guy who reads, one chapter a day or something like that. And Thomas Friedman is not James Patterson, so not necessarily the lightest of reading materials. Probably not something you would, read on the using the facilities or whatnot. You really got to think about that one. Up next is our favorite scene or moment from The Show Must Go On, probably. It's my turn to go first here. Man, I think it would be cheating to go with Hank narrating his letter to Batir, because that does take a minute, but I think that's pretty awesome. So it's either that or just everything at Lululemon. But you know what? Not even the scene with Barry and Hank, but just Sasha and Barry going back and forth about the British accent and getting the job there. And again, love how she calls him boss. I fucking love it.
If you played an Australian person...
I wouldn't play an Australian. I would never play an Australian. I don't want to talk about it, but I would never play an Australian.
Shout out Kirby, you did play an Australian, so and shout out The Good Place again. You should really watch Good Place if you haven't. Jamie G.
I'm glad I picked a backup option, because I too was going to go with that scene. I think I'm going to go with Barry, kind of telling the class about his first kill. I'm kind of going with two of the darker scenes in this episode when this episode had a bunch of comedy in it. But dude, that was, I don't know, man, that was a pretty powerful scene.
Barry be dark, dude. Barry, it's a dark comedy. It's
Barry
legitimately
definitely
billed
dark.
as a dark comedy.
And he also be fly on a plane, but it does depend on what he'd be wearing. That brings us to our Greek Freak of Assassins. This is our MVP of the episode. It's my turn to go first here, and as badly as I want to go Jermaine, because he definitely earned it, I'm going to give it up to NoHo Hank here. I think he kind of got his point across. He's doing really well. He's got just a blossoming relationship with Cristobal, which we're excited about. He's now the boss, and he's got Barry to do the job he needs him to do here. I'm giving it up for Hank.
Man, it's very tough. My top three were what you mentioned: Hank, Jermaine, and my wild card, Esther. I have to go Esther.
Esther.
The hand
The
stab,
hand stab, bro.
and then
Yeah.
the twist, and then the maniacal laughing in the presence. Again, I don't know why, but that's a little bit more than Jermaine, I think. And Hank, I think you could always give it to Hank. So I like to try not to do that every time. So I'm gonna go Esther here. Head of the Burmese mafia, very intimidating, but seems like would be a good time to hang out with. I love that combination.
Cause I'm the Fonz, huh? Hey.
And everybody loves Roddy T's, Rotten Tomatoes, but we are not them. Still, we're going to do our best to give a grade to The Show Must Go On, probably. And in honor of Henry Winkler, Gene Cousineau, you know, he's the man. He was the Fonz. So we grade each episode of Barry on a scale of 1 to 10 Fonzies. Hey, I'm up first here. I am going to go 8 flat, 8.0, a solid B minus probably. Again, I think maybe a little long, had a lot of work to do. I think it was always going to be tough to follow the season 1 finale, but still, I think a step up from probably the early parts of season 1. Just didn't quite hit the highs of the end of season 1. Feel 8 flat is fair. Give me 8.0. Ocho. Hey, Jamie G.
I like it. I'm right there with you. I'm going to go 8.1. Not to Bob Barker you to death.
Except for that's what you say right before you Bob Barker somebody.
I Bob Barker you a little bit here. The price is right.
$1, Bob.
$1, Bob. But dude, my thing is, look, I think they did a lot in this episode to kind of keep the plot line going, develop new spins, and introduce, kind of new key characters. So, and it was funny. Even some of the dark moments were really funny. And for me, that's worthy of a solid B minus. I'm 8.1 in this thing all day. I was gonna go 8.3. I'll cut the difference here with IMDb, and I'll go 8.1.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always happy to give out the solid D, but you'll take the B when you can get it. And that brings us to...
Is it a hard D? As long as you're giving hard Ds, dude.
Well, no, it's a hard 5 and a loose 15.
A tight 5. Okay, I digress.
It's a tight circle. All right, no, we're not going to get into that, but we are going to get into the spoiler section. So this is it. This is that warning. If you do not want to be spoiled on anything from future episodes of Barry, any news about the show, anything of that nature, go ahead, bounce now. Thank you very much for tuning in. Remember, please do like, comment, follow, subscribe thing. Check back soon for our episode covering the power of no. No, it's not the power of love. That's Huey Lewis in the news. Power of No is episode 2 of season 2. For everybody else, here is our spoiler discussion for The Show Must Go On, probably starting now. A lot of firsts in this episode. We get the first mention and appearance of Albert, first mention of Batir, first mention of the pistol that Gene talks about there, and first mention of Rip Torn as his roommate. We see that in the season 3 premiere. I mean, pretty cool, right? I mean, this is a lot of world building here, and you get the idea. They kind of made the first season not knowing if they did a second season, and then they were like, all right, shit, now we got to kind of build the world out here. I like the way they did it. It's cool, the stuff you see come back around. I do just I don't think that they necessarily changed Cristobal's character, but he seems way more competent here than they make him seem in season 3, when Fernando comes down and tells him basically he's an idiot or whatever.
Yeah, I think in season 3 he's just in love, and he's in a lot of ways he's like Barry trying to get out of the hitman game and just enjoy Sally and being an actor. I think Cristobal's trying to get out of the crime game and just enjoy his life with this.
They just want to buy some dollar stores and some rental properties and live off the dividends.
I think that's a lot of it. But yeah, he's way more kind of playing the part of a good crime boss here, I think.
Batir is one of my favorites, and I think basically the only other surviving Chechen at the end of season 3, because all the other dudes got killed when Cristobal got kidnapped or whatever. So I think Batir, because remember Batir's the one filming it when the cops come and all that. So I think
crazy
Batir
shit show
is the only one left. So I'm very excited to see more Batir. And again, a little bit just of a reference to the Gene Hollywood stories with Rip Torn being his roommate. I feel like unfortunately Rip Torn has passed, but I would love before the show ends to get one of these old roommates to show up, kind of like Ronnie Cox would be perfect. But again, man, some of these people are getting older, unfortunately. I'm hoping Ronnie Cox is still out there, but I'm not 100% sure.
Nice little spoilers there. And that is a wrap on The Show Must Go On, probably. Anything else, Mills?
Anything else as I filibuster? From what I can tell, Ronnie Cox still alive. So shout out Ronnie Cox, still alive. There's a chance you could show up. I would be there for it. Shout out, Total Recall, Beverly Hills Cop, RoboCop, Ronnie Cox, in all the good stuff. He'll be home in time for cornflakes. Pretty much it, man. Shout out Ronnie Cox, as I said multiple times. And next up is season 2, episode 2, The Power of No.
Well, saying no is certainly powerful. So we want to thank you for saying yes to the Barry podcast. Thanks again for checking us out. We hope you enjoyed our show and that we added something to your Barry experience. Whether you're rewatching or checking out Barry for the first time, we're here for you both ways, baby. Please remember, like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Anything else?
Other than your emphasis on the certain syllables there, pretty much it. Again, wherever you get your pods, Barry Podcast, on social media at Barry Podcast. Search for us on YouTube or find our YouTube channel at JoeBlowFootballShow.com. Other than that, I think you handled it, man. I'm Magnum Mills. He's Jamie G. And we are the co-presidents of the Mitch Fan Club. And let's go out by bringing it in.
1,
2, 3, Cusino! We're getting better at it.